Julia Borston joins us right now with some breaking news. Julia, good morning.
Breaking news from Disney. Josh D'Amaro, who had been head of the Parks Division, is being named the next CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Dana Walden, who is co-chair of the Entertainment Group, is becoming president and chief creative officer. This was announced today as of a unanimous vote held on Monday. Disney Experiences chairman Josh D'Amaro becoming chief executive officer. This is effective as of the annual meeting on March 18th. He will succeed CEO Bob Iger. D'Amaro is also going to be appointed as a director immediately following the meeting. What's important here to acknowledge is that Iger had been set to stay at Disney as CEO through the end of the year, but now the transition is going to happen as of March 18th at that shareholder meeting. Just a couple notes about D'Amaro. He is head of the company's largest business segment, $36 billion in annual revenue in fiscal 2025, 185,000 cast members and employees, and he has been at Disney for 28 years, overseeing the largest global expansion in Disney history, making a couple key deals. He oversees consumer products as well as parks and cruises, and made a big deal to expand into Abu Dhabi, also some new cruise ships, as well as a big deal with Epic Games. This has been announced by James Gorman, who is chairman of the board of directors, and Gorman will be joining us for a first on CNBC interview coming up. Guys?
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. The reaction, I think this was signaled even in the past couple of days. What do you think the reaction in Hollywood's going to be? I know a lot of people, I think a year ago, Dana seemed to be in the bird seat, or in the, is it the bird seat? What's the? Catbird seat. Yep. And sort of how you think about this. I mean, it's the good news is that both of them are staying. I think there was always a question, would it be one or the other?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why Gorman was selected to be in this role overseeing the succession process is because he had such a good track record of not just managing succession before, but also maintaining the runner-ups, if you will, at the company when he was managing this process at Morgan Stanley. So I think what's essential here is that both D'Amaro and Dana Walden are being elevated. Dana Walden, as co-chair of the Entertainment Division, along with Alan Bergman, has been overseeing the intellectual property that is the engine of the entire Walt Disney Company. So while D'Amaro oversees the profit engine, in that the theme parks are the biggest contributor to operating income by far, the Entertainment Division is the one overseeing the intellectual property. And so by elevating her to president and chief creative officer, not only do they retain her at the company, but they also make sure she's having that oversight over every part of the content business. So I think it's really important that they did maintain both of them. Here, we're just going through this press release here. Bob Iger quoted in the release saying that Josh D'Amaro is an exceptional leader, the right person to become the CEO. He has an instinctive appreciation of the Disney brand, deep understanding of what resonates with our audiences. So I think the idea here is that they will be partnered, and together their complementary experiences and expertise will help them lead this company as it manages the challenges for the next several years. And we see Disney shares up about 1.5% pre-market. What
does it say that the head of parks is now running this business in terms of what the future of this business is? I was reading Matt Bellany overnight, who was just making the point that when you think about the parks and some of the cruises and some of the big CapEx spending that's going on in terms of the future of this company, that it may actually be in live events or in that portion of the business even more so than what we've traditionally thought of when it comes to Disney.
Well, I think when you think of Disney, you think of the movie studio, think of Disney Plus. But the reality is that the parks are already about 2/3 of the company's operating income. If you looked at this most recent quarter that it was announced yesterday, the parks had 3 times the operating income of the entertainment division. So the parks have not only been an essential part of the company for years, but especially when you look at the capital expenditures and the 10-year plan that Disney has put into place for parks and experiences expansion, the fact that they're now expanding to Abu Dhabi without the capital expenditures there, but with other investments, this is an incredibly important part of the company. And in a lot of ways, the IP is generated from the entertainment division and then monetized at the experiences division. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that Tomorrow is not just doing the in-person experiences of the parks and cruise ships, et cetera, but also the video game business. The Epic Game partnership that he forged was a really big one to bring Disney characters into Fortnite. So both real world and virtual experiences at the forefront for Disney going forward.